Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland also use the solo hill sign. Every time we go over a trestle across the Raceway Creek, we will be going from one of the 100 to the other, either Mill Creek 100 or Christiana 100. The short distance will be crossing the trestle we call Hercules Trestle. We'll be crossing into Mill Creek 100. As we pass out of the rock cut off to the running right, you're going to see Wooddale Covered Bridge. There were about 35 covered bridges built in Newcastle County in the 1830s to the 1850s to cross the fast stream here in Newcastle County. This bridge is typical of that construction. It is a sound truss design as evidenced by the X's that you'll see through the openings in the side. Unfortunately, the Wooddale Covered Bridge is not an original bridge. It had to be replaced after the original was washed out in 2003, but it is an exact replica of the covered bridge that would have been built here in the early 1800s. Wooddale was also an iron milling town, as the buildings off to the left of the remains of the iron milling operations that was here at Wooddale. These niches you'll see off to the running right of the train was the mill race that fed the mills here at Wooddale. The first mills here at Wooddale started around 1812, and they were nail plate works where sheets of iron were brought in and they were heated up and sheared to make cut nails for construction purposes, building houses and that sort of thing. In the early 1800s, there were numerous owners and operators of the mill here making different things. Finally, Allen Wood took over operations here at Wooddale. By 1831, he had production here at Wooddale at 40 tons of sheet iron, 110 tons of rolled steel. In 1831, he made 1,800 hoes and 9,000 shovels spades. What's interesting about those 9,000 shovels of spades is that they were used for digging the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal. Allen Wood was able to develop a stronger shovel that would take the constant mounting of use and won the contract to supply all of the shovels for the digging of the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal. Allen continued the operations here at Wooddale until the late 1880s. The family also had large steel mills up in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, and Allen eventually relocated the operation here at Wooddale up to the Conshohocken area. Once that happened, the mill was empty, and it was bought by the Marshall family of Yorkland, Delaware. The Marshalls were industrial paper makers, and they converted the mill here at Wooddale to the making of industrial paper that they eventually used to manufacture vulcanized fiber. In 1918, the mill burned down. Marshall chose not to rebuild it, and ended the milling operations here in Wooddale. Other big operations occurred here at Wooddale in the late 1800s and early 1900s was the quarry, which is going past at this point to the running left of the tree. As a lot of leaves that drop from the trees, you should be able to look back through the branches and see the back 150-foot high wall of what was known as the quarry. The stone here was mined and it was used in the construction of those turnpikes that I mentioned earlier, the Lancaster Turnpike and the Newport Gap Turnpike. The stone was used to build a good strong bed that carried the weight of the wagons and their heavy loads running between the inland farms and mills and the ports that were located at Newcastle and Newport. What is unique about those three ports here in Delaware is back in the 1800s, they were about as far north as you could get and have year-round access by water to Ditches Creek. Leech Quarry was also used to supply the stone for the making of the dam for Hoops Reservoir, which is off to the running right. Unfortunately, once they started to fill that reservoir, the continued blasting that was here at Wooddale was causing the dam to shake, and they didn't want it coming down, so they shut down the quarry operations here at Wooddale in about 1932. As we come to Spring Valley, Delaware, off to the running left, you'll see a pond with some ducks in it. It's one of the more picturesque areas along our trip today. You'll also see an old stone farmhouse. Shortly past that, you're going to see a wooden farmhouse up on the top of a hill. There's a little white building at the base of the hill. We'll talk about that building on the other side of Farleyville Road. As we cross Farleyville Road, if you look off to the running left of our train,